We forming the body, the human body, everybody play a part of the body, it's all the body. First the mind, the mental, then the brain. Our future self neurons in the transition, transforming us into our future televotrons. We are on the regular flow, space and time, extended the line of the natural solar projection. We use just a turn line, moving back. Back in the 30 you and the old me, it's a future teller, old you see. Of the blueprint, the dimensions of the blueprint, spectrum, going to the right ones near you. With the mind of the charge of the thinking 10 years in the future. Yeah, struggling through time and space with no place. While I'm sitting in your face, never daydreaming, it's a future vision at the limit of my greatest future. Solar cells of the longevity, mutation. To my unborn future solar surfaces that will bust and break through the great deal. Now time to play it, reverse and heal. My children, yes, you've been here. If you catch me in the day, you thought it was on. In a higher dimension, not a mind is on. I'm a definition of a power as a projection. Black mind sits down to take a listen. You know why? Teach yourself, I'm coming. See me in the future, thinking in the future. Living in the future, we are the future. We not the present, nor past dwellers. We are all the beings we see to tell us. Thinking in the future, living in the future. Living in the future, we are the future. We not the present, nor past dwellers. We are all the beings we see to tell us.
All right. Adjusting myself, getting myself ready for this. Well, that's how we do. It's all organic. We are back. All right. We are back. We alive. We live another day. We live another season for a reason. To give you the High and Mighty Talks. I am your host, Intellectual Nuben Menkares, and this is High and Mighty Talks with me, Nuben Menkares. I'm going to touch on a few topics, a few, things I want to be definitive about. A few topics, a lot of topics I want to be definitive about. I want those of you who are watching this to share, share. Make sure you like and share. Make sure you, put it on TikTok, Instagram. Because I don't fool with none of that stuff. Sometimes let my wives do it and whatnot, but I don't really fool with that stuff. I do, my broadcasts, the raw and uncut and the realest content you want to see ever, anywhere. I'm going to just keep it real. High and Mighty Talks, American Intelligence Radio, MENTELLECT Radio, which is only for the private people in the community in the Republic of America. Also, join the Republic of America. Those of you who consider yourselves to be American Indigenous Indians, American Indians, American Indigenous Indians, that join the Republic of America. This is the first American Indigenous Indian community. The first American Indigenous Indian community. There is no American Indigenous Indian communities except ours, the Republic of America. So go to ROAworldwide.com, ROA worldwide.com, and put in your application for those who acknowledge themselves as American Indians, American Indigenous. I'm talking about the bronze, copper-colored people. I'm not talking about the Native Americans, the people, the $5 Indians and whatnot. They already got their whole little get up, their little get down, and what they do, their little hustle going where they collecting money for these casinos. But anyway, before I get into this, I'm going to start off in the name of Amen. In the name of Amen, the Supreme, the All-Powerful, the one and only true Lord. And Amen we trust. And Amen we thank, and in Amen we continue forward forever. Yes, this is the land of Amen, America. The planet is the planet of Amen, but America is the land of Amen, which is why today even this government, which is set up, goes off of amendments. And it's no coincidence that there are more pyramids, over 2,000 pyramids here in the Americas, and the name Amen was already here in the Americas. It didn't come from Egypt, just like the pyramid culture did not come from Egypt. That comes from America. Proof being that there's only approximately about 200 pyramids, like 255 pyramids in Africa and the Middle East and all that, which is Africa. But there are over 2,000 pyramids here in the Americas. All right. This is why George Washington, who was a Freemason, formerly George Wessington, because his family's name was Wessington until he got over here and he got amongst the Washita, which is a bronze, copper-colored, so-called black American Indian tribe. He took the name Washita, the Washita from, and mixed it with his name Wessington and got the name Washington because they wanted to be authentically American. They wanted to be or take a remnant of culture from the American Indians, which is our people, us. We are the American Indians. We are Indians, not Africans. We are Indians in America. The real American Indians in America that were wiped out by paper genocide, by devils like Walter Plecker, this demon Walter Plecker, and the rest of these other devils, these pale creatures who tried to wipe out our very existence so that they can assume our identity. But let me go ahead and answer some of these questions because we're going to get into all that today. You know, I really do this because, you know, I'm busy being a father, being a dad, you know, doing what I do. And, you know, I have to just put it out there, you know. Got to get it out there. Got to, you know, put out some real thoughts, some real powerful thoughts. Right, that I want to share with my people. First and foremost, what the topic at hand is. Right, because a lot of things I forgot to touch on. The last I'm going to touch on everything that I mean to touch on because, you know, it's always a minute before I do this because my lovely wives, one of my lovely wives, she is the producer. She runs the camera. She, you know, sets up everything. Shout out to you, Mrs. Amandea Mencares, all right, my lovely wife who just gave birth. Shout out to my other lovely wife, Enrod Contessa Mencares, who also gave birth. They gave birth a month apart, so I've been busy. I have my hands full. All right, shout out to my lovely wives. All right. Let's see, first thing. Do humans know that black people are another race? Now, I've been saying this for the longest time, and I'm the only one that's been saying this. I'm the only one who's been making this statement that black people, so-called black people, are not a part of the human race. I'm the only one that said that. Now, I know I said this at the risk of sounding crazy, but I don't care because people are not going to shame me into not speaking the truth, not speaking what we can all see with our own eyes, that which is a actual and factual observation. You look at our hair, I'm going to go through this again. You look at our hair, you look at our skin, you look at how we act, how we move, our whole demeanor. It is not the same as anybody else here on the planet. I said this before and I'll say it again. The Caucasians, the Asians, the East Indians, they all got the same type of fur, hair, what they call hair, straight animal-like type fur, which they admit comes from animals. The humans say that they are, you know, that they come out of a ape or a monkey genetic, or the rhesus monkey. They say that Darwin said the same thing. He said that mankind, and at the end of when he was saying mankind, he put the white man there. He said that they are the product of evolution from a monkey, from an ape. Nowhere did they ever put so-called black people at. Again, it's not a shot at the humans or mankind, but obviously if we don't got the same hair as these people, we don't got the same skin tone, texture, then obviously we're something else. We're something else. And again, does this not make sense? Does this not make sense as to why we're treated as outcasts? So-called black people are treated as outcasts, even being called black people. We're treated as outcasts, people who are not part of the human family, because we're not part of the human family. We are a totally different species. We are a totally different race. That's why there's a such thing called racism, because there could not be racism if we were all the same race, which is supposed to be human. There should not be any racism. Nobody should have a problem with intermarrying, mixing together if we all supposed to come from the same source or some higher power or some God. So then why is there such a thing as racism? And why is it directed at our people, the people who look the most different from everybody else? Why is the racism directed at our people if we all part of the human race? Make that make sense to me. Why do you treat your fellow human beings as you claim we all are? Why do you treat your fellow human beings like outcasts? Why do you treat them in such a monstrous way? Why do you put them in ghettos? Why do you take their land? Why do you burn crosses? Why did you burn crosses on their land? Why did you hang and burn these people and show pictures of you burning people who are supposed to be people who came from God or people who are supposed to be human? Why did you do that to your fellow human brothers and sisters if you claim that we all one race? The white man proves everything I'm saying. You might think what I'm saying is crazy, but the so-called white man proves everything I say just in his racism. The Asian, the Caucasian, the Asian, the East Indian, all of these people are the same people. They all got the same genetic material, the same type of hair, which they fur, which is what they call hair, the same type of skin texture and whatnot. They only differentiate between certain features and whatnot, but they all could be intermingled. That's why if you notice when a Caucasian mixes with an Asian, the genetic material just blends in. You'll see somebody, you won't see much of a difference if an Asian and a Caucasian mix, or Asian and even an East Indian who has dark skin but the same type of hair. You'll see a difference, but you won't see much of a difference. Now, when our genetic material gets involved with any of these people, the genetic material just totally changes. You can see that you start calling them mulattoes, grays, whatever. The genetic material just totally changes once our genetic material gets involved. So obviously, if our genetic material does not blend with everybody, which goes back to what the white man said about the one drop rule, if you got a drop of so-called Negro blood, which is really indigenous blood, American indigenous blood, because the Negroes are the American Indians. If there's one drop of blood in you as a so-called white person of a so-called Negro, then you a Negro. You could consider a Negro. Octoroon, quadroon, mulatto, they came up with all these different names. And this is because they know we're not part of the same species as them. We're not. See, the white man, they could all mix in with each other. Whites, the Asians, the East Indians, the Arabs, they could all mix in. They got the same, except for the ones who look kind of like us, who got the woolly hair and the dark skin. You know, those are the people who consider the outcasts. Anybody that has our genetic material, they consider an outcast in the human race. Because they are. We're a totally different species. The white man been telling you that in your face. In fact, they was up here teaching that we were 3/5 human. That's what they taught in the Constitution, that slaves or black people are 3/5 human, meaning that we're not all the way human, or we're not human. But the problem with that is, what is the other 2/5 or whatever you say? You say we 3/5. They said, what are we, animals? What they were trying to say we were animals. They try to link us to some sort of primitive animal origin, which they have never been able to do. However, they did link mankind, which includes the white, Asian, East Indian, mankind, people with the straight hair. They did link them to the rhesus monkey, which is what Darwin put on his, in his theory of evolution, which again, nobody has ever debunked. Nobody has ever said. Caucasian scientists to this day have never debunked Darwin and said he was wrong. In fact, they double down on the fact that the humans are a hybrid race of animals. Yeah, humans are really just a hybrid race of animals, and they acknowledge their animal origin. Yeah, humans, yeah, human scientists, they acknowledge their animal origins. We have nothing to do with that. We're not connected to that. We look totally different, which shows you that we are a totally different species. I put forward the observation and I put forward the statement that so-called black people are a separate race known as Amun. We are known as the Amun race that came before the human race. I said this before, I'll say it again. I'm only going to double down on this because I want this always attributed to me once the facts start coming out, when the white man starts admitting, because to y'all, that's what facts are, when the white man started admitting the truth. When he been showing you the truth, everything I've been saying since forever, since y'all encountered him, he been showing you that you're not what he is. We're not the same people. We're a totally different species. They are the human race that came after us. In fact, we created the human race as part of a genetic experiment. They have our genetic material and animal genetic material in them mixing together. This is why they have the same this is why they have the same kind of hair as animals. That's why they get fleas and ticks in their hair. And again, this is not no shot at white people or Asian or anything, but it's the truth. They have animal origins, which makes sense as to why they're so territorial. Remember I said, humans are very territorial like animals. It's like, remember I said, when other races of people move in our neighborhood, we don't trip about that. We be like, oh, we welcome everybody, so-called black people. But when you move in a white people neighborhood, racist white people, which is the majority, a lot of them, this nigga get out my neighborhood, right? But when it's your neighborhood and they come in, it's for everybody. But when it's their neighborhood, nigga get out my neighborhood. They go for the Asians, the East Indians on, but they can come around you and got the nerve to set up shops and make money in your neighborhoods. Okay, but that goes to show you that we are not the same as these people. We're not. We're not the same as these people. We are a totally different species that was here before them, that has no animal origin. So people will say, well, where do black people come from? If you're saying black people don't have no origin point, because we don't have no point of origin on Earth. Black people have no point of origin on Earth at all. That's why you can't find, they keep coming with this nonsense, the oldest living person and black person, but you keep finding fossils and you keep finding fossils. So you keep trying to carbon date them how old they are. All that means is that is the appearance, the time where they appeared on Earth. That's still not saying where they come from. If you're saying that these people are the oldest people on Earth, that bronze people, so-called black people are the oldest people on Earth, that's still, that all that's dealing with is the appearance of these people. When they appeared, doesn't mean that that's where they started. You come from, or where you start from, is where you came before you appeared on Earth. So where do we come from? Not Earth. We come from the outer dimensions of what is called Earth. The upper dimensions of what is called Earth, because you do know there's extensions to this planet. There is extensions to this three-dimensional Earth that we are in. There are extensions to it. There is a extended Earth beyond this three-dimensional Earth. This is why the white man is always trying to get in ships and go into space. He's trying to go into space to find more extended material or more extended world or environment that is connected to this. That's what it means when he's going into space. He says he's doing what's called space exploration. In NASA, they do what's called space exploration. What is space exploration? You're exploring what's out in space. I thought you already knew what was out in space. I thought you already knew that it was these planets out there and these stars and these other. So what else are you exploring? Why is there still a NASA? What are you exploring if you already know the planets that's out there? They're not exploring planets. They're looking for the extension of Earth. When they're going into space, they're looking for the extension of Earth because they know this is not just it. And I'm going to show you how they know it even further through the Freemasons. What is the symbol of the Freemasons? Because remember I said we are in a three-dimensional Earth right now under mankind. We are in a three-dimensional Earth, and Earth is starting to evolve into a fourth-dimensional, or going into a fourth-dimensional shift, right? Where that fourth line of that wall of reality is being shown, that wall of extension of growth where we're supposed to be going into. Now, they show you your Freemasons, and they'll show you pyramid, right? A three-sided pyramid, which is really symbolic of the three-dimensional world we live in. They show you the three-sided pyramid. But then they'll show you an eye in the pyramid or eye on top of it. What is that eye? That is the eye of the Lord, the eye of the true Lord, or the true creator, which is Amen. That is the eye of Amen, not no eye of Horus. It is the eye of Amen. Okay, that is the eye of the Lord. That's why they seal off all their prayers in this society with the word Amen. That's why there is a such thing called amendments here in America for the Americans. Where they get amendments from? A-M-E-N, amendments. The A-M, Amen. Right? The pyramids over here. So that culture that you call ancient Kemetic culture was already here in the Americas through the indigenous people. It was already here through the indigenous people. We had Amen here in America first. Amen comes from America. And the white man knows that. The Freemasons know that. That's why they worship the Egyptian pyramids. They have the obelisk and all that, because that was already here. We built that here in America. And I'm going to say this, a lot of you Pan-Africanists and you pro-black and you Egyptologists and all you Kemetic so-called scientists, y'all full of shit, because y'all sat up here and acted like, oh, Egypt was just a place, and Egypt this and Egypt that. We need to be jumping on planes and flying over there and going to kiss a bunch of damn deteriorating and broken down pyramids, when you got all these pyramids over here in North America, South America, Central America, and the Yucatan. You got mound cities here in America, in North America, in Chicago and Illinois and places like, you got whole mound cities built by our people. And the Georgia region and whatnot, our people had civilization going here first, before the presence of the white man, before the presence of the Mongoloid Indian, before the presence of anybody that set foot in America. We were here as the indigenous people setting up civilizations, as the Amen race. As the Amen race, not the human race, as the Amen race with amendments first. Again, they copied, all they did was take and copy what we were already doing. The white man didn't do nothing but take and copy what we was already doing here in America. That's all. And then turn around and lie to about we came from Africa. Just to take our role and assume the role of Americans. Even the word America don't come from white people. That comes from the Mayans. It don't come from no Amerigo Vespucci. That's a lie. His real name is Alberico Vespucci. But you ask most white people who claim they so proud to be American, where the word American come from. They can't tell you. How you gonna be proud of something, a word, and claim you such a staunch and staunch American? You don't even know where the word come from. You don't even know where it comes from. You see, because I said before, white people are not Americans. Just like Asian, those people are Americans. They are immigrants to America. They're Europeans and Asians. They're immigrants to America. The only real Americans in America is black people, so-called black people who go back past slavery. The real American Indians. All right. Had to get that off. You always got to go in with that. All right. So yeah, they know we're not part of. They already know we're not part of the human race. They just can't verbalize what we are. They know we're not part of the human race. They know we're not what they are. They know we're foreign to them. They know that. And the sad thing is, they know and show it. But you so-called black people, like, they put it in your face. And then you hear somebody like me explaining why they treat you as outcasts, because you're not a part of the human race. You are a totally different species that was here before them, that even created them, right? That have an extension to this outer earth that I'm talking about, this upper dimensional outer earth that we are from and connected to. We have a continuous bloodline that has no beginning or no ending. I know that's hard for you to fathom within this three-dimensional fantasy world that we live in, right? But that is a reality, because how do they say? Energy cannot be created or destroyed, just converted. So we've always been here. We don't have an origin point. Our point of extension and growth is in those upper dimensions, and we made our way down into the third dimension, and we unfortunately been paying for it ever since. A cup of coffee, smoke me a little doobie. So I know people want to say I'm crazy for what I'm saying. And that's fine. I always say, I don't mind. I'm not afraid of people ridiculing me and saying I'm crazy, but you can't say what I'm saying don't make sense. If what I'm saying don't make sense, then Call in and ask me the question, or ask the question in the comment section or whatever. Call in and ask on American Intelligence Radio. You give a call in, and I do that every night at 10:30. American Intelligence Radio, formerly MENTELLECT Radio, which MENTELLECT Radio is now only for people inside the community. We got a private radio broadcast for outsiders, and we have a public broadcast called American Intelligence Radio for outside people, and we have a private one for the American indigenous people who are members of the Republic of America, which is called MENTELLECT Radio, Indigenous MENTELLECT, or MENTELLECT Radio for the intelligent ones of all people. Right? So, wake up. They already showed you, and they have already proven that we are not a part, or they don't think of us as part of that. All right. All right. Next topic. Hold on. All right. Why are Africans not referred to as Negroes, but black people in America are? Now that's a funny question, and that's another question that answers itself as to why Africans, I'm talking about Africans, the tribal Africans and all those other people, they have never been referred to as Negroes. Even when they come over here into America, they're never called Negroes. Why is that? If they claim we come from Africa like them, and now they got this guy out here, they got this old drunk nigga was out here, this old drunk nigga from Ghana. I think this was about a few years ago. This guy was up here apologizing for slavery and talking about how black people came through Almino Castle, whatever that castle is over there in Ghana, and the place of no return, all that BS. Man, don't believe that bullshit, man. And nobody came through no damn Ghana and came into no America. They just pay these niggas money to lie, them old Sambos over there in Ghana. They just pay them niggas money to lie and just make up stuff and start talking about we come from Africa. See, they doubling down on this whole African thing now that we waking up and find out that we the real American Indians. The so-called white man is doubling down on it. That's why they got this old-ass fossil, this filmmaker named Martin Scorsese. You might have known him from movies like Goodfellas and Casino. His best days are behind him. He old as hell. He out here making some goddamn movie about the American Indians, the Native Americans. And of course, they look white. Go on and look at this movie. And ain't nobody gonna see that bullshit anyway. You got a bunch of old fossils in there. You got Robert De Niro in there. All these old ass fossils in there. Look, man, nobody care what y'all talking about no more. Y'all full of shit. Nobody care about y'all making up. Y'all can make all them fake Native American movies with white Indians. We already on to the scam. We on to the scam going back to the 70s when you had that Italian guy, the Sicilian guy that ionized Cody guy who was really a Sicilian, an Italian, a European, playing like he was damn Indian or a so-called Native American. Or that the Sasheen, yellow feather, red feather, another fake Indian. We already on to that. Y'all can keep making movies about, just like y'all do with the Egyptians, how you know how to make them white. And while you can keep on trying to whitewash history all you want to, we don't believe you. You need more people. And you could get 1 billion plus people, we still not gonna believe nothing you saying no more. The truth is out, man. Knock it off, man. You people in Hollywood, knock this bullshit off. Stop trying to convince the world that the Mayans, the Aztec, the Inca, the Olmec, the Mesoamericans, the bronze, copper-colored Mesoamericans, the real American Indians. Stop trying to convince the world that they not bronze people, so-called black people, that their descendants are not sitting here in America today falsely believing that they African Americans, falsely believing that they came from Africa. Knock it off. Y'all full of shit. I said it raw and uncut. And the sad thing about it is y'all just believe this, whatever. Y'all believe it because they tell you that. They never even presented no proof about this transatlantic slave trade. You know that, right? Other than some documentary where they just narrating and putting up a picture. That's not proof. I want to see some damn manifests. I want to see some real numbers. I want to see it. They've never shown it to this day. So all you really doing, you so-called Pan-Africans who believe in the African slave story, just like you Israelites, you Muslims, and all you Christians who believe in the transatlantic slave trade story, ask the white man to provide proof. More than just some damn documentary with him showing a picture and him narrating. Because that to y'all is proof enough. He just got to say it and he ain't got to prove it. But we got all the receipts. We got all the receipts, even the early receipts where before the whole white people thing kicked in and the whole racism thing kicked in, and they was just talking about who they saw over here when they came here. They make it clear that they saw our people here. Bronze, copper-colored, so-called black people with feathered headdresses who were the real Indians. The real Indians, the real American Indians, not the Native Americans, not the fake Mongoloid people that came over here and crossed the Bering Straits and made it here, start copying off of us and vulturing our culture, putting feathers in their head and copying off us. No, the real American indigenous people. And even some of them mix their seed in, because, you know, the indigenous bronze, indigenous man, you know, he sees some of the little, you know, Mongoloid honeys. I guess some of them look good to him and they laid up with them and they made babies with them. So that's where you get a lot of those dark-skinned, Mongoloid looking people with straight hair. That's the bronze men laying up with them and the bronze women laying up with them. But keep it in mind, don't get it twisted. The first and only real American Indians is us. We're not African. The first and only real Indians, the only real Indians here in America, the only real American indigenous Indians here in America is us. So-called black people falsely calling themselves African American, Negro, black. Throw all that shit in the garbage, man. Throw it in the garbage. Because it is garbage. Because it came, those names came from garbage ass people. There's too much proof. Go look up the Bonaparte temples, man. Go look up the Bonaparte temples of the real Indians on the wall from Mesoamerica, the Mesoamericans, the Olmec, the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan people. Go look up the Mayans and look up them from Bonaparte temples. Go look up their statues and stuff. These are so-called black people. This is not no mix. This is straight up bronze, copper-colored people, so-called black people here in America today. We're their descendants. And we got to make the link back again, man. We got to make the link with our Mesoamerican culture. Dead African nonsense. Dead the African talk. Dead the African talk. That's not our culture. Africa's not our culture. The feathered headdress, that's our culture. The powwows, that's our culture. Don't let these people vulture off of our culture like they have been for the longest time, like what they're about to do with hip hop, like they're about to do with all our music, the jazz, the soul, the R&B, vulturing our music, sitting up here making up false lies and whatnot about like hip hop being 50-50 with the European Latinos. I'm gonna call y'all the European Latinos, man. You Mongoloid European Latinos, man. Y'all not the real people of those lands anyway, man. Get to this next one. Bear with me. I just want to touch on all of this. Okay. Brought me into that thing about, yeah. Africa has approximately 255 pyramids. America has over 2,000. Where did they come from? Who created these pyramids? Who made them? Why are pyramids so important in history? Because those pyramids represent civilization. They represent civilizations that have stood and have predated all the civilizations, the current ones, even the ones the Europeans, the oldest ones the Europeans set up. These civilizations predate those by thousands of years. So these pyramids have been in America for thousands of years, older than the Egyptian ones. So who built those? And why not any of these and it ain't the so-called Mexicans you see today. It's not the Caucasians. They wasn't over here. It's not the Mongoloid Indians who you see today. It's not them. Go look on the Bonaparte temples. Go look on the walls in ancient in South and Central America. The pictures of the depictions of people who were living in Mexico at that time, who were living in Yucatan. You do know Mexico was a black country. You do know Mexico was a so-called black country, a bronze copper-colored country. The Olmecs was in Mexico. The Olmecs was all over the place in America. They were all in Peru, Yucatan, South America, Central America, the Mayans. All of them was all over these places, man, before we made our way into North America. And we were the first people here in North America. We did not come by no slave ships. That's a lie. We're going to debunk that even tonight. How that don't even make sense. We're going to really go into that. Because I want to do a definitive for you people. Again, share this with everybody. Share this TikTok. Share this Instagram. Let's get these numbers up because I want to spread the message. It's not even about trying to get no monetization on this channel because I already know I'm not. YouTube makes sure that my views don't go over 1,000 to maybe 1,500. So it ain't about no monetization, but how you can support if you want to support what this message and what I'm saying, this American intelligence from me, the intellectual Nuben Menkarayzz. If you want to support this, go and support our MENTELLECT Patreon channel, MENTELLECT, MENTELLECT Patreon. And also I'm about to do another channel called Nuben Menkarayzz Raw and Uncut, our AI channel, Nuben Menkarayzz American Intelligence Raw and Uncut. That's going to be 15 minutes of, you know, the purest and the most raw stuff I can't say on YouTube for obvious reasons. I can't really get down how I really want to get down here because they'll censor me, they'll flag the channel, take down the videos if we, you know, say things that are in the algorithms to, you know, so again, I'm not even trying to, if you want to support, you know, send me no Cash App. I mean, you can send Cash App down there if you want to support the message or join the Republic of America. Go to the link under this video, Republic of America, and also join or become a member of the MENTELLECT Patreon family where you can hear me do the Raw and Uncut AI, American Intelligence, Nuben Menkarayzz Raw and Uncut is coming. $6 a month to be part of that. All right, got a lot of content. So we got over 2,000 pyramids here on this side. Why wasn't Dr. Ben one of these pro-blacks that y'all love so much, all your so-called black master teachers? Why didn't they tell us about these pyramids over here? Why wasn't they taking us on trips to Peru and South and Central America? Why wasn't they up here telling our people that they were the Mesoamericans, that they was the Olmecs, the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan? You mean, what kind of historians are you if you don't even know what the origin of our people here in America? Why are you telling our people here in America that we're linked to Africa and to Egypt instead of linking us to what we really link to, which is America? How come they didn't tell us that? How come they didn't? Because we have a very rich heritage. We got more of a rich heritage here in America than any imaginary heritage y'all making up in Africa or in Egypt. We got more of a rich heritage here in America. You see, as the Mesoamericans, as the Olmecs, the Aztec, the Inca, the Mayan, as the real American Indians who made their way into here. First is the Mayans and is the Aztec, and then we start breaking up into different tribes and going into different states in North America, and that's how we got all over the Americas. Wait, now this is before the white man came here, before the Mongoloid Indians. The Mongoloid Indians followed us in from South and Central America because they came in there amongst us. And again, they saw our culture and they started copying our culture, wearing the feathered head crowns. Again, these people who they call Native Americans today are a mixture of Caucasian and Mongoloid Indians. Mongolians, they're not even Indians. And even the term Indian that has been pushed out of America and placed over in Hindustan, where they're calling the Hindus Indians. They're not Indians. Those people are Hindus. That name got transported out of America for obvious reasons because, you know, the so-called white man hated the Indians. And you know why they hated the Indians and called them savages? Because they know that real Indians are us. The Indians they were calling savages were us. And then you had your civilized tribes. They said that 5 civilized tribes, which were your Mongoloid Indians. Those were the civilized, the ones who looked more like them with the straight hair. They called them civilized. Whereas they called us, the ones with the woolly hair and the afros and the braids, they called us savages. And a lot of our people, how we got to be slaves here in this country was because we were prisoners of war during fights. But we're going to get into that in a second. But Africa has 255. We got 2,000 here. So something ain't adding up. The math ain't mathing. Why wasn't any of our pro-black scholars and teachers and master teachers telling us about our origins here in America? Why they keep pointing us over there to Egypt? Why they kept pointing us over there to Africa and telling us about the greatness of Africa and the greatness of ancient Egypt? Yet you're not talking about our people here in America, the greatness of our people here in America, where we are, where it really counts, where we've been at since forever. You telling us about civilizations and cultures we have no connection to, and here it is, our real civilizations, and here in America. You know, because for the time we was young, we know we had our grandmother, great-grand, somebody telling us that we Indian, or we got Indian in our family. We got Indian in us. I grew up hearing that about the Indian origin, of Indian connection in my family, on both sides, from my mother and father. Okay? So obviously, there's some straightening needs to be done. And I'm going to say this, a lot of the reason why I'll acknowledge the reason why a lot of these guys, these so-called black historian, master teachers, they talk so much about, they tell us about our Indian heritage or our heritage as American Indians is because they're a bunch of sellouts and sambos, man. They're a bunch of sellouts and sambos who are basically being used by the so-called white man to direct us away from who we really are, which is the American Indians, because they don't want us to have that title. The so-called Caucasian powers that be here in the Americas do not want us to acknowledge that we are the American Indians, that we are the American indigenous people. They want the American indigenous culture dead here in America. They wanted the American Indians dead here in America, and it has been an all-out campaign since we encountered these people, since they came here into America and found us here as the copper-colored races. Now, what did I say? I said in the 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary totally debunks. The 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary totally debunks the whole African slave trade thing. The 1828 Merriam-Webster Dictionary totally debunks the African slave trade thing. It totally debunks that lie. Okay? Totally debunks it, because it talks about the Europeans coming here and finding the copper-colored races all throughout the Americas, finding the copper-colored races, the Aboriginal people. Who are the copper-colored people? Us. Our skin is not black. Our skin is copper-colored. They were describing us. And back then, copper was even darker. So that's talking about, it's not talking about the Mongoloid Indians with the straight hair. It's not talking about them. Those are Mongolians. And the reason why they even got their dark skin is because they mixed in with us. But they're talking about the original unmixed American Indians, so-called black people, bronze copper-colored people who did not come from Africa, who have no origins in Africa. We were always here in the Americas, always, as the first indigenous people. Y'all need to wake up, man. All right. Why is it hard for black people to think that they are American Indians? Why is it hard for them to think that? Why is it hard for them to think that they're the real American Indians? Why is it hard for them to fathom they're not from Africa? Why is it hard for them to think that they're from America and not Africa? Because the white man been brain staining you into believing that, through his fake history, through his whitewashed history, through his revisionist history, and his revisionist history, basically his lies, where he starts lying about how he brought us from Africa on slave ships and how he crammed 1 million of us from Africa into America to pick cotton and do whatever. I'm going to show you where that don't even make sense. I got to walk through this. Because I need you to put your thinking caps on. I need thinking people to process what they're trying to tell us. They're telling you that a bunch of people from a whole other continent, Europe, meaning white people, they're telling you that white people from Europe, a whole other continent, came into America first, right? And then they decided they needed slave labor. So they went to a whole nother continent and got us, so-called black people, and brought us from a whole other continent into America to help them, to pick cotton, to serve them and work for them. Make that make sense to me. So you're going to you already don't know what you're doing. You already in a place that's not your homeland. You Caucasians, you already in a place that's not your homeland, America. Why would you go to Africa and get a whole bunch of strangers to come here and work who don't know the language, who you don't know? You claim these people are savages and they don't know the language, but you're going to get these people who are savages, people who you're calling crazy and savage, you're going to get them to come over from Africa, a whole other continent, into America, and cram them into slave ships where they dying on the voyage, defecating and all that on each other, just to come here and pick cotton. And they don't know much else because according to you, they were savages. They didn't know anything. According to these lies the white man tell about how they brought us from Africa and they civilized us, taught us how to comb our hair and wash themselves. That don't even make sense. Why would you, a foreigner in a land, bring some other foreigners to work in the land just to pick cotton? When it was a whole bunch of people here already. When it was a whole bunch of those copper-colored people that were here already. The copper-colored races who were here already. And obviously they knew how to live in the land because they've been living here before you. So make that make sense to me. Does an African slave trade even make sense when you had American indigenous people here who knew how to work the land, who would be more valuable to you because they actually know the land, they actually know how to work the land, grow on the land. They've lived there before you. They was doing all of the things, you know, to live and survive here in America that you didn't know how to do in America. So why would you get a bunch of people from a whole nother environment to come here and just to pick cotton? Because that's what you claimed that's all we was doing was picking cotton and tending to the fields. How are we tending to the fields? Who taught us how to tend the fields? Now keep this in mind. We're not from America now, according to them. How will we know how to tend to the fields? You just brought us here to pick cotton and tobacco? When you had all these white people over here, you had the indigenous people here. Why would you could have had all them people do that and not bring nobody over here? That costs money to ship people. And they didn't even have boats. Is it back? All right. Sorry for a little bit of a glitch. We back. But I want to go back into this, what I was saying about the so-called African slave story, right? And why it's hard for black people to think that they are from America and that they believe they're from Africa. Because number one, they always calling you African Americans. They do that on purpose. That's a form of programming. Why are they calling us African Americans like we immigrants, like we chose to come over here? We was already here. They calling us African Americans. That's a programming tool. They do that in the media. They do that in police. They do that in the government. They classify us as African American when that's not even right. Because again, we're not immigrants. We didn't come over to Africa from Africa into America like how the Europeans did. They chose to come over here. We didn't choose to come over here. We were already here in America. Nobody brought us into America as no damn packed like sardines and no damn slave ship, because there wasn't even no slave ships until there was no cargo ships till 1850. Okay? And like I said, I want you to make this make sense to me. Y'all saying that you brought us over here from Africa, millions of us from Africa into America. Make that make sense to me. You are a foreigner here in America. White people were foreigners here in America. So foreigners in America are going to go to Africa and bring more foreigners into America to work for them to pick cotton. Please make that make sense to me. When you had a whole bunch of people here already. You had the indigenous, those copper-colored people that you talked about, those tribes of copper-colored people. Who are they? Who are those copper-colored people that was already here? The tribes of copper-colored people. Those aboriginals that were here already. You had them here. Why didn't you just enslave them? Why didn't you just enslave them? You had those people here. Why didn't you enslave them? They knew how to work the land. I'm just playing devil's advocate because they say the copper-colored people, those indigenous people that were here in the Americas, was not us. They saying those were the Mongoloid Indians, the ones they call Native Americans today. They were not, because y'all never called them bronze copper-colored people. You called them red people. You called them red men. You never called them bronze copper-colored people. So stop with the lie. And they didn't even believe in owning land. So the people that were already here in the Americas, you didn't use them. You didn't enslave them. That would have been easier to enslave them than bring Africans over from a whole other continent into America. What would have been easier? Cut the lie, man. There was no African slave trade. The Africans account to about maybe a small 2 to 3% presence here in America. They brought a few of them here, and that was it. They stopped doing it because it wasn't economically sound, obviously. And the ones they brought here, they dropped off in the islands. But there's no African presence in America. There is no African presence in America. You see, except for the ones y'all bringing over here now. But we already know how the Africans look. They look like the real Africans look like the Kimbe Mutombo, Manute Bo, Alek. Those are Africans. You see, we're not Africans. You can clearly see we got a different hair texture than the Africans. Ours is a little wavier, curlier, a little silkier. We got a little afro texture to it. Even at our thickest point, our hair is different because the African don't even grow hair. We grow afros and braids. Unlike anybody else, the Africans don't grow afros and braids. They got to get extensions. They don't even got no hair. And no disrespect to them, but just keeping it real. They they live in really hot climates where their environment, the ecology, and their water ratio doesn't allow them to have that in their genetic makeup. Because reason why our hair has a wavy, curly texture and a looser texture is because we're native to America, or we're indigenous to America, where there's nothing but water around. So we had that. We're inhaling it. We're drinking it, especially when the water was better before the plague of America, the white plague came over into America. Anyway, don't believe the Africans. We the indigenous American people that was enslaved. There was an Indian slave trade, not no African slave trade. The slave trades that took place in America were Indian slave trades, indigenous Indian slave trades. Okay, not African. Again, the reason why it's so hard for our people to fathom that they from America and not Africa, because the white man is constantly putting in your head that you African American, That's a form of programming. And they're programming a lie into your head. Calling you African American is a lie. They're programming a lie into your head, because we did not come over here as immigrants like the Italian Americans, because they're trying to align us with that. Italian Americans, Irish Americans, German Americans, French Americans, Scottish, whatever. They're trying to throw us in African American, Asian American. Nah, man. Nah. The only real Americans here are the American indigenous Indians, which is our people. There's no African American connection. There's no Africa to America connection. All right. Let me check the next one. Why do white people make things happen while black people sit around and wait for things to happen? Again, this deals with action, or actionary people versus reactionary people. White people are actionary people. Black people are reactionary people. Again, that comes with thinking of yourself as supreme, thinking of yourself as number one. Caucasian people here in America think of themselves as number one, the number one people here in America, because they were able to get together systematically and create systems for themselves to be put in the forefront. They created court systems, political systems, and whatnot, basically set up a government and put themselves at the forefront, and therefore looked out for their own kind. And the people who are not their kind, going back to what I said, we all not human. We're not part of the human race, because if we was all human, then there would be justice for everyone. There would be justice for all. There would be judgment for all. There would be no, we're going to deprive these blacks of things and we're going to give to you whites. No, they're supposed to be everything equal. Everything's supposed to be equal if you claim we human. And that's the only reason why you so-called black people think that everything is supposed to be equal, because the white man lies to you and gets you to believe that you are the same as he is, and you're not. We're a totally different species. I mean, like I said, a lot of people want to wrestle with that reality, but I don't give a damn. So, white people make things happen because they are raised in a culture where they're taught to take the lead on everything here in America. They're taught to take the lead. In fact, they're encouraged to take the lead, and black people are encouraged to just fall back and let everybody else do something for you instead of you doing for yourself, because you're taught that this is not your country, it's not your homeland. But you got Caucasians up here talking about, this is, America's a white people country. America's a country for white people. Really? Then why are these indigenous people here? Why are all the indigenous copper-colored people who are the real Americans, why are they still in America? You saying something, it don't make it true. You see, you got to get your mind out of that. White people are conditioned to take the lead on everything, especially here in this country. And you so-called black people, you're used to sitting back and waiting for what they say to take place. Again, that's that first mindset and that secondary mindset, first and second. We got to start putting ourselves first as the American indigenous people, because this is our land, and we have to start becoming reactionary people. But the only way that's going to happen is if we drop the whole black thing, because black and white also pushes that first and secondary mindset. White first, black second. White first, black second. White first, black second. White always pushes out as first, and black is following behind it. So when you get to how white and black people think, you'll see how white people will see themselves as being actionary people, first out and starting businesses, corporations, becoming law enforcement, doing things like that. They make actionary moves. While black people sitting around waiting for people to do for them because, again, you've been taught that you are weak mentally, that you have no intelligence, that your only thing you should hope to do is just listen to white people and let them tell you what to think, what to do, how to feel. That's really how you so-called black people think. You've been taught to depend on white people for your daily bread, your daily thoughts, your daily ideas, your limitations of how far you can go, who you are, your identity. You've been taught to look to white people for all that. And that's wrong. That's wrong. You're not supposed to look to another man that's not your kind, not other people. You're not supposed to look to other people who are not your kind, define you and your destiny. That's why our people are not actionary people. But a small number, even if it's a chosen number, is going to change that face. And change that. A real reason why the beast is putting these ignorant, I want to talk about this, why these ignorant rappers are going out now. All these rappers who you see in interviews on Vlad TV and all these other outlets. All these rappers who sound dumb as hell, who can't talk, who cut their word, them niggas. Them niggas. Let me tell you something. Somebody's telling them to talk like that. You know what that goes back to? You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the Little Rascals. Those of you who not that, I'm not talking about the Little Rascals that came out in the 1990s. I'm talking about the Little Rascals, that white show that go back where they had like one or two black kids on there. This is a show about a bunch of children in the 1920s and 30s. There was a show called Our Gang, or the Little Rascals, and it was a bunch of white kids and a few black kids. It was just basically following their antics and them playing around and stuff, playing jokes and stuff. Look up the old Little Rascals. So there was a child on there by the name of Buckwheat. Remember, y'all might know Buckwheat from the Little Rascals, the old Little Rascals, not the one they remade in the movie, the old Little Rascals. All right. Now Buckwheat was a actor, young bronze actor, American indigenous actor named Billy Thomas. Now Billy Thomas, according to Robert Blake, he's still alive. He was one of the Little Rascals. He played Beretta. He played Beretta in the 70s. But Robert Blake, he was one of the Little Rascals. He was a little kid named Mickey. But he knew Buckwheat. He knew Billy Thomas. He said Billy Thomas was very articulate. He said Billy Thomas knew how to speak well. The kid that played Buckwheat, he said they made him talk like that. They made him talk like, Otay and all that dumb shit. No, hey, Otay and all that, mispronouncing words to make him sound dumb. Okay, to make him sound ignorant. And they even did that back in slavery. If you had the slaves or the indigenous people that talked too well, and whereas a lot of the Caucasians was coming over here, they were speaking in that broken English, and they sounded like that's where a lot of that country broken English come from, Caucasians. You had a lot of bronze, copper-colored people, the indigenous people who spoke very good English, and they spoke very well because they were around English Caucasians that was coming here, and they also heard black English people coming here because you had black people that came over from Europe too. They don't talk about them, but they classify them as white. They had black people come from England, from Europe. There was black people coming from Europe, but they spoke very well, and they didn't like that the racist Caucasians who barely knew how to speak well or sound illiterate, they didn't like that. They wanted the black people, the so-called black people, to sound as ignorant as them. So they kind of demanded that you talk in that broken, ignorant sounding English. They did that with Billy Thomas. They did that in slavery. I think they just showed that on 12 Years a Slave, where the guy Solomon Northup was talking too good. He was talking too proper for the white man, and they got mad. And it was like, why you sound like they don't like you sounding like you intelligent. That's a threat to them. That's why when they say, you notice even today, when they hear a so-called black person speaking, and they speak very well, and they know how to, express themselves, and articulate. They'll, oh, you're very well. White people go, oh, he's very well spoken and he's very well man, and they act like you some damn savage that just learned how to speak yesterday. Like that's just so amazing that you know how to express yourself without doing this. Now you got this generation here, this young generation of and uhs and can't even get out a word. Because I was watching these TikTok videos. I watch a lot of something, not the TikTok, but I got to get into this too. There's an app that's up right now called Monkey, the Monkey app. Now, of course, probably some racist Caucasian or Asian made up this Monkey app because they already knew who was going to be on the damn Monkey app. This is basically some video sharing thing. You jump up there and they kids be talking to each other and communicating, but it's a lot of bronze, copper-colored children up there, so-called black children up there, so they're going to call it the Monkey app because they like to call our people monkeys. They love that. They think they're slick, right? But there's a lot of white people on there too, like a lot of white young teenagers on there as well. But anyway, so the young kids on there, because I'm watching the youth. I watch the youth and I listen to the, I don't listen to, I hear some of the music they listen to and how they talk, and it's very alarming to me. It's very alarming to me to hear this young generation, children, 16, 17 years old, because I didn't start having children until I turned 50, honestly. I didn't start having children. My oldest child is 2 years old. I'm 50 years old. I'm 52. My oldest child, I'm going to be 53 this year in November. My oldest child is 2 years old. And I got 3 daughters following behind them. They babies, man. I didn't start making babies until I hit 50. I got 4 daughters. And it is really scary to me because I could have had sons, teenagers, and they on their 20s acting like this, which I would have never tolerated. I would have never had my sons or daughters walking around to and they can't even, they can't get 1 or 2 words out. And it's something else y'all do. Listen, man. The white man already called out people monkeys already, which again is a deflection because we don't look like monkeys at all. Monkey, when last time you seen a monkey with an afro and this beautiful copper colored skin, man? We don't look like no damn monkeys, man. But they sit up here and I wish y'all stop with this when y'all trying to describe talking to other people. You be like, yeah, so ooh ah. No, that sounds a lot like a monkey. Y'all go ooh ah. Y'all niggas be go ooh ah. So ooh, ah. Stop doing that, please. Stop. I swear they put a lot of these plants in, I suspect with a lot of these so-called trap and drill artists. These are plants, man. A lot of these kids are industry plants. A lot of them are tethers, like Tariq Nasheed say, who are not from America. They brought that ignorant sounding shit into America, that ignorant trap and drill. They go into places like Florida, go into places like South, and they dropping this ignorant ass trap music and whatnot, and they just saying anything. They saying the dumbest shit, and y'all acting like this sounds good. Y'all actually bumping this dumb sounding shit, and y'all bumping Burna Boy, and y'all bumping all that dumb monkey sounding shit in y'all car, man. What happened to lyrics, man? What happened to real lyrics? What happened to real intelligence going into words? What happened to that? I blame a lot of you rappers for that because a lot of y'all niggas after when y'all got off into the 90s, a lot of y'all guys start coming in, y'all start saying bullshit too, man. When you had KRS-One around, when you had your KRS-Ones, your X-Clan, you had your Brand Nubian, you had people that was saying something that made sense, you could actually understand and hear what they're saying. Then a lot of you niggas started just coming in here and y'all started with this saying anything. Y'all niggas just started rhyming just to be rhyming and y'all wasn't talking about nothing. That was the decline of rap music / hip hop, to where it just start taking a decline when y'all just start saying anything, man, just to rhyme words. And that's what gave birth to this trap and drill garbage that you listen to today, where y'all these young guys just sound dumb as hell, man. Like I listened to 2 minutes of that shit. I cut that shit off. I didn't even give it 2 minutes because it sounds dumb. And it's not because I'm older, because you got a lot of these young guys who say, oh, see, because you older, it's not of your generation. Miss me with that. Good music is good music. I don't care what era you from. I don't care what era it is. Good music is good music. I'll still listen to some Ray Charles. Ray Charles was way before my time. Way before my time. But I listened to some Ray Charles. Ray Charles is a banging artist, man. Shout out to Ray Charles, rest in power. He was a banging artist, man. You know what I'm saying? I listened to old Motown stuff, which was before my time. So don't tell me this is a time thing. No, it's a music and quality thing. Y'all listen to bullshit, man. You listen to pure garbage. And you know how you know that? Because a lot of you young guys on YouTube, y'all do reactionary videos. And I watch when you listen to the old soul and R&B and the funk music like Parliament, Funkadelic, Earth, Wind, and Fire, or especially a lot of Caucasians listen to a lot of Parliament, Funkadelic too, and they rating it. And a lot of y'all young guys, and y'all jump right off into it. Y'all listen to Motown, listen to Michael Jackson. Y'all jump right off in that music, start bobbing y'all head. Y'all ain't doing that to this monkey ass music, monkey ass noise y'all call music, man. Let's trap and drill and all these drill artists and trap. Man, you niggas need to go sit down somewhere, man. Y'all sound terrible, man. Y'all sound like something y'all on drugs or something, man. Like y'all niggas don't have some acid or ecstasy, whatever y'all on, man. Y'all sound dumb as you know what, man. All right. Let me go ahead and read the next one. Hold on. I want to make sure I'm touching on everything. Well, we already re-examined the slave story. I wonder if we went into that, how the slave story, how we taught about how we was brought over on cargo slave ships, millions of people. That's how they justify all these millions of black people in America. Because, see, we brought them over here, and then they started having sex. They just spread out all over the place. It's a lie, man. The math don't even add up. Y'all lying, man. Y'all didn't even have the technology to boast to bring people like that into America. Stop lying, man. Stop lying. All right. Let me see. I just want to make sure I got a few more to go. I want to really get off into this. Yeah, so, let me finish with this. I want to finish my point on this. The reason why these ignorant sounding rappers are being put out is and duh and you can't speak, because they're programming our generation of children to act like them. Remember, they put out these rappers and these people that's talking and all these guys doing interviews on Vlad and all these different platforms because they're trying to program your children how to talk like idiots. They're using these rappers to program your children to talk like idiots. They're also using these rappers to program your sons to be sodomites, to be effeminate. That's why they got these rappers wearing dresses and carrying purses and talking about they gay now and all this, because they want to influence your sons to be that way. Just like they want to influence your daughters through your Sukiyanas and all these other, they want to influence your daughters to be a bunch of thoughts, a bunch of whores. They want to influence your daughters sitting around here twerking, talking about getting dick and all this other nonsense. That's what they want your daughters to turn. These are industry plants that are put out here to influence your children to become degenerates. That's what they are. They're not here to sell music. Keep this in mind. The music is just what they plant the messages into. These low-level messages, the degrading messages to put to your children. That's why. Come on, that's not even entertainment. That's just straight programming. A Sukiyana, something red. I don't even know these people. Uzi Vert, or whoever the hell these new creatures are they put out every week. You see, sodomites, weirdos, freakos, sexos, all kinds of degenerates. That's to influence your children. Don't let your children listen to this music. Don't let your children listen to this trap and drill and this whole music. Don't let your children listen to. They're trying to program your children to be the next degenerates. That's all that is. Don't let your children listen to that. And if you got enough sense, don't y'all listen to that, man. They're not here to entertain you. They're here to program you, man, to be the next degenerates. That's why they putting these people out. This shit don't even sound good, man. I'm like, y'all be listening to this and going down the show. I'm like, damn, are y'all listening to this? Y'all that desperate to hear music? That ain't it. Yeah, that's just programming. We're trying to influence your children to act like monkeys. Basically act like a bunch of illiterate savages. That's what they're trying to do. These people are influencers, man. Let's see. Next question. Let's see. Hold on. Next one. Are black people treated like Africans in this country or Indians in this country? Well, let's examine that. An African in America would be considered an immigrant, correct? An African would be considered an immigrant. An Indian would be considered indigenous to America. So, question, based on our treatment here, all the racism that is hurled at us, all the sectionalism, all of the red line and all this other stuff that's given to us, all the savage treatment we get by these race soldiers who call themselves police officers. You know, they moonlighting as police officers, these race soldiers. Right? By all the bad treatment we've been getting here in America under the so-called system of white supremacy, which there is a system of white supremacy that they uphold. You know what I mean? Meaning, which I call the system of white degeneracy. But under this system, why would you treat African immigrants this way? Because make it make sense to me why you hate so-called African Americans so much. White people brought them here into America, according to what y'all say. Because I'm trying to make sense of this. White people brought Europeans, Caucasian Europeans, brought these Africans, meaning supposed to be us, into America, right? You brought us into America against our will, forced us to work for you, beat us, raped our women, did all this stuff, and still treat us back to this day and hate us, but yet you brought us here. You did all this to us. Why do you hate us again? It don't make sense. You've never treated any other immigrants this way, so why are you treating our people this way? What did we do to deserve that treatment? What did we do to deserve the treatment you give so-called black people in America today and you treat them as outcasts? What did they do for you to hate them so bad, to redline them, to go create laws to send them to jail for the rest of their life when you letting white people go for doing the same shit? What have black people done? You lynching black people, you want to kill them, you hate them so much. What have they done to make you hate them so bad if you the one that brought them over here? Shouldn't they hate you? Shouldn't they want to see you dead in the street? Shouldn't they want to burn you alive? Shouldn't they want to do that to white people who brought them here and yet they got to sit in a country where they didn't ask to come to get all this abuse? Make that make sense to me. The treatment don't go with the actions that y'all did on the so-called African American. The treatment that they get don't go with it. You supposed to be, if anything, we supposed to get preferential treatment as being immigrants here, like every other immigrant. If we are supposed to be immigrants because you're calling us African American and you are insinuating that we are immigrants. By calling us African Americans, you're insinuating that we are immigrants, and you call forced immigration. So why are you treating us this way? What is the bug you got up your ass about our people here in America? The African thing, you brought us here. You the one that did all this to us. We didn't do nothing to you. You did this to us according to what you say. So why are you so hateful against us? Don't make sense. Now do it. Now, let's look at the Indians. The Indians are indigenous to this land. The copper-colored people, they are indigenous to this land. They had all of the land, growing on the land, building on the land, all the things that the Europeans came here and saw and became jealous and envious of and wanted it. Because when the Europeans came here, they wasn't able to make any of their settlements work until Jamestown, which is around the 15 or 1600s. I forget where they settled Jamestown. That was in Virginia. That was the first settlement they had in America that was able to get working because they had indigenous people helping them. They had bronze, copper-colored Indians helping them, right? That's how they were able to settle Jamestown. And these people helped them out and they became servants or indentured to these people, right? Or what you want to say slaves, because they didn't have the manpower to really push slavery like that in this country in the early 14 and 1500s. They didn't have that manpower, okay? They had some indentured servants. They was trying to set up a work system here. They didn't have that. You don't really hear real heavily about slavery until like toward the end of the 1700s going into the 1800s. The only ones who really had slaves in this country like that were your wealthy people, like your Washington and all them other people setting up the government, and they had the people They had servants and slaves and people who were helping them. But people would walk off the plantation all the time. People would walk. George Washington put in his own journals. People would just walk off the plantation, wouldn't work, would stop working, would abandon the plantation, would go and escape across America, because the indigenous or Indians that they had working is not the Mongoloid Indians. They have never shown you the so-called Mongoloid Indians in bondage. They've never worked. They've never been in slavery. The Mongoloid-looking Indians have never been in slavery because they couldn't do nothing. They didn't know how to do anything but hunt. But you could have, used a lot of people to do this slavery thing. But so you have this hate for the so-called African American, right? But your hatred doesn't match with what you did to them. They have more of a grievance or a grudge to hate you more than you hate them. Now the Indian, let's go to the Indian. The Indian got all the land that y'all wanted. The Indians are killing people and scalping people who y'all calling savages. They tearing up a lot of your colonies that y'all set up, y'all little colonies that y'all tried to set up in their areas. They were destroying and tearing them up. They wouldn't share their food and share their land with you. So, of course, you would start to hate these people. There would be an animosity to these people. You would start to hate these people and want to go to war with these people and kill these people because they've been fighting against you to get you out of their land, fighting against you and taking what you got and trying to get you out of their land. So, of course, you would develop a hatred for those people who you call savages, because they would just run through whole colonies and kill up a lot of white people. They did all that. The indigenous Indians here in America. You see? So, now my question is this. They got a reason to hate the Indians, not a reason to hate the Africans. Right or wrong? They got a reason to hate the Indians, not the Africans. We get treated like Indians, don't we? We are hated like Indians because we are the Indians. We are those people that was tearing shit up, tearing up their colonies, fighting to get them out of here and out of our country. We was doing that. That's why they hate us. They hate us because we the American Indians. They don't hate you for the color of your skin. They don't hate you for nothing else. They hate you because you are the American Indians. You are the people who they were calling savages. They were calling niggers, Negroes and everything. They couldn't stand you because you didn't want to share the land with them. You didn't want to give them any of your resources. So what did they do? They got a militia of them together. They stopped bringing them over here more and more. They brought guns and they basically went to war with you. They knew what you had. They knew you didn't have no guns. You had bows and arrows and spears, and you fought the good fight. And a lot of y'all got overtaken by the gun, and they forced you into slavery. So we're really descendants of prisoners of war. We're the descendants of POWs here in America. Indigenous POWs here, not slaves. Because a lot of our people, we fought off the whole slavery thing. A lot of our people wasn't walking around in America. We wasn't slaves. Don't believe that 4 million slaves was in America. That's a damn lie. There wasn't no 4 million people in slavery in America. There was plenty of bronze, copper-colored indigenous people walking around free. Was never slaves in America. But they want to give you that idea that all so-called black people in America were conquered and became slaves. Because, see, they can't justify those people who they describe in the 1828 Merriam-Webster dictionary as the American Aboriginals or the indigenous people. They know it's not the Mongoloid Indians. So who they talking about? They're talking about us, man. They hate us because we Indian, not because we African. They hate us because we the indigenous people of this land that was giving them hell, that was fighting with them, that was killing them, tearing up their settlements. We was giving it back to them, man. All throughout Florida, the Seminole Wars. That would see all the things they call Indian uprisings is the slave uprising. There was over 500 to 600 Indian/slave black so-called uprisings here in this country. On plantations, there was a lot of uprisings here. They want you to get this lie in your head that black people just went along with slavery and that was it and nobody fought back. That's bullshit. That's a load of bullshit. They put that in your head to make white people seem like they more powerful than what they are, that they more dominant than what they are. They put that bullshit in your head that we was just so weak we didn't fight back and we just accepted it. No, that's not true. Not true at all. See, the only difference is why we didn't go as hard is because you got a whole government aimed at our people. It wasn't just the people in those areas we would be fighting, like the Klan or whoever we'd be having to fight and go against. We had to fight against the whole government. You see, like in Black Wall Street, when the army and the military came and they started shooting the black people. They wasn't shooting the white people. The military came in and they was your terrorists, your backup terrorists. When the military came in during the Tulsa race rising, they turned toward Tulsa, Oklahoma. Was it a Black Wall Street? The government came in, the army came in, they started shooting the black people. They was shooting the black people. They was killing black people, and they was helping the racists tear down their banks and destroy their towns and things. Like, they was helping them because they didn't want to see the indigenous people, the American Indians, prosper in America. You know, in our country, they didn't want to see us prosper because the immigrants wanted to prosper, and they wanted us poor and broken on our ass. Just like today. Notice all these immigrants could come into America and get money like it ain't nothing. White people get money. White women get money like it ain't nothing. When it come down, you getting money for something, or grants. Oh, you got to write this out. You got to write that out. And you was the people that was pushing for the grants. They give all the money, all the government money assigned to fake Native Americans, white females, all kinds of so-called minorities, which are really just white people under different things, getting money to start businesses, rehab homes, all kind of free money these people get. These illegals, they getting money to relocate into America. Our tax money, my tax money. I pay a lot of taxes to relocate into America, right? Off our money, but we can't get none of our tax money because that's what they doing, because they don't want to see the American Indians, the real American indigenous people. They don't want to see us come up. They don't want to see us doing good in America. Because that's a slap in their face, because they destroyed all of our businesses, our homes, our communities, and things like that, just to see us down bad and broken on our ass, man. It has been an onward attack on the American indigenous man and woman, the so-called black man and black woman, the real American Indians, since the Caucasians came into America. There's been an onslaught of attack on our people, and our people walk around ignorant like they don't know. Y'all still walking around believing your skin is black, believing they brought you from Africa on slave ship like a damn pack like sardines. Y'all believe that bullshit, man. You really believe this? Speaks to the intelligence of black people, man. We treat it like Indians in America, not Africans. All right. Descendants of slaves or indigenous people. We're the descendants of indigenous people, man. We ain't no descendants of no slaves. Stop with this. Listen. Stop with this descendant of slave shit, man. Please stop with this descendants of slaves. Because we were indigenous and free in America long before the white man, way before he came to. We was free in America a long time before we was, even if any of our people were even slaves. The majority of our people was not slaves in America. That's a lie. A lot of our people signed on as indentured servants in the South and became sharecroppers because they were basically told that black people wasn't allowed to own land in certain parts. And so they didn't have any way to survive. So they had to go and work on these plantations to do certain things and work on the plantation and sharecrop, which was basically the black people growing the crops because the white people didn't know how to do nothing. They grew the crops, showed the white people and whatnot, so they knew how to work the land. Black people grew out of the land, farmed, and did all this stuff and whatnot, made the land grow, and that's how they kept black people indentured to them, through sharecropping. Then they come at the end of the year with how much, because the person that owned the property, which they took from black people in the first place, through the Indian Removal Act. The Indian Removal Act was the removal of black people off the land. That was the Indigenous Removal Act, or the Indian Act was the removal of the bronze, copper-colored people, so-called black people, off of our lands. And they took them and gave them to white people, immigrants, by force. So don't tell me anything about any justice. Don't tell me anything about any law. Don't tell me anything about any righteousness. There is no justice here. There is no law here. There is no righteousness here. Because our people had everything taken from them. Stripped from them, even their own identity. We walking around here, our people walking around here don't even know they the real American Indians. They walking around here thinking they came from Africa. They walking around here wearing damn kente cloth and looking like idiots. They go walking around here listening to trap and monkey music and joining apps that got monkey on it when these people are openly insulting you to your damn face. So, again, in the re-examining the slave ship story don't even make sense. You're not going to bring a bunch of people into America who don't know how to do anything, and you don't know how to do anything. If anything, the valuable people is the skilled labor. That's the valuable people. Black people, when they show you in slave movies, black people on auction, and they show you, oh, this buck, they call the black man buck. This buck this buck can do carpentry. He can do this, that, the third. He's a blacksmith. Nobody taught us no skills in slavery. Nobody taught us anything. We already knew how to do all that stuff. We was doing all that stuff, agriculture, blacksmithing, because we was making arrows and bows and spears. So obviously we had to know how to work in metal. We had to do how to do blacksmithing. We was doing that already, making spears and weapons. Hell, niggas know how to do that in jail. Niggas know how to make weapons in jail. You didn't think we was out here in the world making weapons? Bows, arrows, spears. We was doing all that here, man. So we had all these skills before the Europeans got here. We was building and doing all the carpentry and I'm going to say electrical. Wasn't no electrical. But we was doing all the carpentry and all this other stuff and building before the white man came here. That's what made us valuable. African slaves are not valuable. African slaves are not valuable. You would have to teach them how to speak English. You would have to teach them to understand you, to work, and then you just teaching them to pick cotton. They don't know how to do anything other than maybe pick cotton. You're going to have to beat the shit out of them to do that and try to beat on them and get them to understand what you're talking about. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. Don't believe that's a lie. There was no African. African slave was not worth anything. Indigenous Indian slaves were worth everything because they actually had skills. Way before Caucasians came here in America, we was doing all this stuff. They always tell this lie that they civilized us. How you gonna civilize? How are white people gonna civilize black people when white people didn't even know how to wash themselves? Look up their history in Europe. Look up their history in England. They didn't even know how to wash themselves. I heard this Ku Klux Klan guy. Remember I told you the last thing? This Klan guy was on the soft white underbelly talking about, oh, we taught the blacks how to wash themselves and comb their hair. We ain't even got the same kind of hair. How you want to teach us how to comb our hair? You had fleas in your hair that y'all caught pearls from God. Y'all didn't even know how to wash yourself. Most of the diseases that were brought over here into America was due to y'all poor hygiene. It was due to white people's poor hygiene. Most of the diseases they brought over here, there was one lady that was going around in New York, and they call her Typhoid Mary. She didn't even wash her goddamn hands, and y'all had her cooking food for y'all all over New York. Y'all had a spread of typhoid fever here in America. These are diseases that are connected to Europeans, to white people, based on their poor hygiene. So how the hell you gonna tell us how to wash ourselves? Y'all don't even know how to wash ourselves. We didn't have no diseases. We didn't have no typhoid. We didn't have none of those crazy diseases that y'all had. We didn't have no black plague. Any diseases we got was from being around y'all. Even the sexually transmitted ones that y'all passed on to the black females that y'all was laying up with and raping, or some of them that gave it up willingly, unfortunately. Well, come on, man. The slave story's a lie, man. What proof do we really have about the transatlantic slave trade? None. Because y'all funny when y'all say, oh, can you prove that, we was the American Indians? We got plenty of proof. The Bowling Park temples, the Library of Congress got the first book. Go look up the Library of Congress. Look up that sister Tasha Zia, I forgot what her name is, where she showed in the Library of Congress the oldest book they got there from the Americas. I think this book is about in the 16 to 1700s or whatever. Going back, it shows you how the American Indians looked. They had actually drawn pictures and descriptions of how the American Indians looked, actual pictures. These are black people. These are not mixed people with straight hair, mongoloid looking, no, these are actual black people with braids and afros wearing feathers, so-called black people, bronze copper colored people with braids and afros and feathers in their hair and what you would call dreadlocks today. They had all those people back then. Those are the people who they were calling Indians. Those are the people who had feathers in their hair and all that. And even up into the early 1900s, they would advertise so-called black people as Indians. They was always showing black people as Indians. They never pushed black people as Africans in this country. That came later in the 1900s. Because they wanted to start whitewashing the history. They didn't want, the American Negro is the American Indian. The American Negro is the American Indian, who is the indigenous owners of America. Let's see. Touched everything. Why are black people always in the minds of racist white people? Why are black people, I had this question in my head, right? Why are we always in the mind of racist white people? Like this guy who just made this article from the Rolling Stone. He's the co-founder of Rolling Stone. I put a picture of him up and some real asinine stuff he said about black artists and whatnot. Because, and I got to say this with a lot of you so-called black people, because I heard this on Tariq Nasheed's show. Please stop worrying about white people giving y'all recognition. Man, look. Tariq Nasheed had this, he was talking about this article from Rolling Stone magazine, this white guy named Jan Winter, some caveman from I guess he's from England or America. He started Rolling Stone magazine, right? He's a co-founder, and he got a memoir out where he's basically interviewing white people, white rock musicians and stuff like that. And somebody asked him, I don't know, somebody probably didn't ask, he just wanted to say it, because they always say somebody asked him, but basically the question was, why didn't he interview any black artists or anything for his book? And he said that women and black artists are not intellectually literate enough something like that, intellectually literate. In other words, black people can't speak well enough to sit down with him and go through an interview. First of all, nobody give a shit about Jan Winter, and nobody give a shit about Rolling Stone magazine. Rolling Stone is about as out of date as Playboy magazine. Nobody give a shit about Rolling Stone or Playboy or baseball. You know, all that stuff you white people like. Nobody care about that in real culture. Nobody cares about that. Jan Winter, you a culture vulture because y'all got that name Rolling Stone, that y'all named y'all magazine Rolling Stone, from a black man, so-called black man, a bronze copper colored man here named blues singer named Muddy Waters. He's the one that came with that term Rolling Stone. He had a song called Rolling Stone that y'all copied from, and also the Rolling Stones, the group, they copied that from him too. He was a blues musician, because a lot of you Caucasians, especially in England, y'all copied from a lot of the early blues people. Muddy Waters, I forget a bunch of them. What's the guy, Robert Taylor? I forgot Robert something. I forget what his name is. The one, it's a bunch. Robert Johnson. I'm sorry, Robert Johnson. A lot of y'all listen to all the blues music, man. A lot of y'all was listening to our blues music. That was our early music. Our early indigenous Indian music was blues music, man. You see? And again, please stop trying to make the face of American Indians these mongoloids. Because I got to say this. That's a little off topic, but I had to say this. I wish that now that our people are discovering that you're the real American indigenous Indians of America, and that the feathered head crowns and all that stuff is really ours, and that all that goes back to Mesoamerica way before the Mongoloids came here. Please stop acting like they're the real Indians and that y'all got to get mixed with them to have Indian blood in you. Their blood is not Indian blood. Your blood is Indian blood. Your blood, O positive, and other word, but the most O positive, really, O negative, O positive, all that's indigenous blood. That's Indian blood. That's Indian blood. Our blood is American Indian blood. Their blood is Mongolian. That's Mongolian. Those people who call themselves Indians are not from America. They're from Asia. They're from Mongolia. They're from Asia. Okay? The people who they showing you with the slanted eyes and the straight hair, they're not indigenous to America at all. They need to stop telling that lie. The white man already done bust y'all out already. The white man, when y'all got into a beef, because they had this thing going where these Caucasians going back and forth with the so-called, quote-unquote, Native Americans with the straight hair, the long hair, and they got that Asian look to them or that white look to them. And the white guy said, y'all not even indigenous to America, man. He said, y'all came from someplace else. So they know that these people are not indigenous. They know that the copper-colored people are indigenous to America. They know that. Let me see. So I asked this question, why are black people always on the minds of racist white people? Why is that? Because that's going to be my last question before I wrap it up. You know, this is a real question. Why are black people always on the minds of racist white people? Guilt, fear, the reality that these people who you claim to hate so much, yet you think about them like that guy Scott Adams and all these racist white people, that guy that made that. Remember that guy made that cartoon Dilbert? The guy that made Scott Adams, that crazy ass Caucasian that made that cartoon Dildo, whatever the hell it is, that weird ass looking cartoon where he made a bunch of money. Then he started just talking shit about black people. Look, he's talking about, I'm done with black people. I'm gonna stop helping black people. You ain't helping nobody do shit. And all you racist Caucasian, like I said, that's just some nonsense you got in your mind, some fear in your mind, some low self-esteem thing in your mind that you really not who you claim to be. You know you're not Americans. You know this is not your country. You know you're in a place that is not your own. That's why you walk around thinking about the real indigenous people who are here. The real indigenous people who you talk shit, you feel safe to talk shit behind a camera, behind a news thing, about people who you scared to death of, who you need a gun, a police force, an army to back you up. That's what it is. You feel intimidated by these people. That's why they always in your head. And these people not even thinking about you. And this other guy, what was that other guy who said something? Because Tariq Nasheed put the guy Jan Winter, whatever his name is, right? You copy from a black man's title, get your name in your magazine. Nothing y'all do comes from y'all. Everything y'all do comes from us in some way, shape, or form, except some degenerate stuff that y'all do. I'm going to just say it like that. The degeneracy comes from y'all. The greater things come from us. Y'all just vulture off of our culture and take it for your own. Just like our American Indian culture, who you trying to hand over to whites and other people and call it Native American. Whatever. But anyway, we got any questions before we close out? I think I'll hit everything. We got any questions? What's the question? Come out and read it to me. I touched on everything I wanted to touch on. What's the question? I'm going to answer that question. We're taking questions now. You know we do things a little unorthodox here. Because I ain't got time to look at y'all questions. Because when I get on one, I want to roll. I want to get it off.
Does the so-called African accent come from American Indians and the Caribbean?
Say again, does the
so-called African accent come from the American Indians and the Caribbean?
Does the African accent?
Where does the African accent come from?
They got their own accent. The so-called Africans got their own accent. They don't sound like us. The so-called Africans don't sound like black people in America at all. We don't have the same tone, nothing. Even our tone is different. We don't have the same tone or the same accent as the Africans. That's why you know we're not from Africa, because here's another thing how you know that. They claim that we come from Africa, but you can't find R&B, blues, jazz, none of that stuff in Africa. You're supposed to have 100 Michael Jacksons there, 100 Prince. You're supposed to have all the music that claim you come from Africa. So where's that music in Africa at? It don't exist. All the music that you're listening to, jazz, R&B, hip hop, blues, all the country, really country music too, but rock, all that is American Indian music or American indigenous music, our music. The real American Indian music is our music. And it should be classified as that. The music of America is American Indian music. And the people who are American Indians is us. We did not go anywhere. They tried to wipe us out through paper genocide. People like your Walter Pleckers, that demon, and the rest of these other demons that was working for this government to wipe us out as American Indians and make us Africans and Negroes and all this other BS. But other than that, that's it. Anything else? All right. Well, if that's it, please subscribe to MENTELLECT Patreon. Do me that favor, subscribe to this, share this everywhere, because this is the only place you're going to get real truth. Real, raw, uncut, and unadulterated truth. Because I don't give a shit about the YouTube. I don't give a shit about YouTube monetization. I don't. But I would like this shared so for knowledge sake. And if you want to support me, you get the Cash App down below to support real truth. No bullshit. Real truth. There's a lot of bullshit on YouTube. But if you want to support real truth, support MENTELLECT Patreon. Go to my MENTELLECT Patreon, MENTELLECT. It should be down below. MENTELLECT Patreon, and become a patron for $15 a month. I'm going to set up AI, Nuben Menkare's Raw and Uncut AI, American Intelligence on Patreon. It's going to be 15 minutes of my real thoughts on a lot of things, which I can't say here. I'm not going to hold my tongue. It'll be real, raw, and uncut. That's $6 a month. So just look out for that. But subscribe to the one that's $15 a month right now, MENTELLECT Patreon. Subscribe to the Ethnic American channel with Sister Enra Vanzetta. Ethnic American channel. That's one of our affiliates. And that's it. We're going to have more merchandise coming up, and that's pretty much all. We're going to close out the name of Amen by the power of Amen. And Amen we trust, and Amen we think, and in Amen we continue forward forever. I'm out. Mm-hmm.